What's up, everybody? This is Robert Ferguson, Roberto Lorenzo Ferguson. Yes, I am your nutritionist. I'm a guy who shares because I care. All right, now today I am going to be joined by nutritionist, health, and weight loss coach, the one and only Lisa Marie. This will be a great conversation because we're going to talk about something that needs to be talked about, and that is a recent study that came out that is very, very clear that if you are eating a lot of ultra-processed foods, and we're going to get into the weeds of what I mean by that, you increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, inflammation, and a whole bunch of autoimmune conditions that nobody wants to live with. Yes. And it's just really a matter of being informed, you guys. It's just a matter of being informed. And our job today is to help you become informed so you know what to look for when it comes to products that you buy, and that you don't fall victim or prey to this big push on plant-based nutrition. You hear about it and people keep talking about it. I'm in meetings talking about it. People have an idea about it. And I would say 98%, and I'm saying this with love and grace, 98% of people that I meet, really high level people. When I say high level, that means that they are like the face or influencer for some of these really big companies. They're the gatekeepers and they don't know. They don't get it. Nutrition is interesting. And that's why I have a ton of physicians. I have a ton of dietitians, nutritionists, personal trainers. They watch and they listen because they do want to learn. And then we have our own coaches who are informed and who teach our diet-free life methodology. And then we have bystanders who just come across and they just catch me, hear one of our conversations. They go, wait a minute. I think this guy is on to something. Or if it's with me and Lisa, and Lisa's on to something. Or maybe it's Susie or, Amy or one of the other coaches that's joining me. We are in the know because we're actually doing the work. We know what works and we know how to help people. So without further delay, let's bring on my dear friend and coach, Miss Lisa Marie. What's up, Lisa?
What's up, Robert? How are you?
I'm good. I am good. You know what? I'm like really good because yesterday I was in Florida. Today I'm in California.
Nice.
In a week or two, I'll be in Houston. And then shortly after that, I'm hoping to be in New York.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, New York and Philly. So without question, we will definitely be able to break bread together, and I get to see.
Absolutely.
It's been a while, Lisa Marie.
It's been a years.
It seems like it, huh? Because I
Yeah.
haven't seen you since
I
before
mean,
the pandemic.
yeah. It's been a long time.
Wow. Okay.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll have a good time. It'll be great. And then today, I'm so happy that you have the impromptu in you to jump on, because I get emailed and texts all the time where people said, when are you and Lisa going to do something together?
I know. People were asking me that too.
And
I'm
I
like,
said,
oh,
well, we had like a couple things going on, but we're getting it back.
yeah.
And I even, and just in case, just so you know, if we want to jump over to Telegram, even if it's 20 minutes, I did put the link in the description. So if we choose to do that, we can.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, is there anything you want to talk about before we kind of jump into it? And I'm going to begin with Oprah and her hospital moment.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we're going to get into the whole plant-based thing and this new study that's got people kind of like freaking out, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right. Well, we're going to dive right in, you guys. Okay. We're going to start off with Miss Oprah Winfrey. If you didn't hear, she was recently in the hospital. And there's some articles about it. I know you read, actually, Lisa Marie. I saw it somewhere, but I didn't even think about it because I was traveling, I was doing what I was doing, and I'm thankful that you brought it to my attention, Lisa. But the little bit that I've seen and heard her report on and her friend Gail King report on is that she was in the hospital because she was dehydrated and she was having some gut issues. Is that
Right.
what you heard? You heard the same thing?
Yeah, I think like Gail was a little bit more, you know, um uh, is coming out both ends type of thing. I think she actually mentioned about her, but yeah, that's kind of what I heard. And then I've been what's interesting is that when you read through some of like the headlines, people I see people, posting about it, and then you read the comments underneath it. I was like, wow, like a lot of people are saying Ozempic, like in the comments, to some like, where I'm looking at these comments, there's a lot of people mentioning Ozempic with it.
Well, I mean, for those of you who aren't aware, Oprah has been very clear and that one, she's using the drugs as she sees fit. Could be Ozempic, could be a Wegovy, could be, because she never said exactly which one she was taking. But then she did that special, and then she did another special where she's 100% allegedly making some serious money endorsing these weight loss drugs. And knowing what I know, as soon as you shared that with me, my mind went right to the reality that if she's having gut issues, I mean, there's a strong correlation that she's having some issues because she's taking the drugs.
Yeah.
Now we don't know that 100% because she's not going to admit it, and I don't think anybody would admit it because that wouldn't look good. But based on what I know about these weight loss drugs, um, gastrointestinal, that's part of the problem. She's dehydrated, means she's not consuming food, she's not eating. Um, you have no desire, like all the people I talk to when it's working for them, to eat or drink much of anything. So I could see her being dehydrated.
Hmm.
I mean, what's interesting is that Oprah's out there and she's never, ever been in a situation where we heard her going to the hospital because she's got gut issues and she's dehydrated.
Right.
I mean, do you call this a conspiracy? I mean, I mean, what does your gut say?
um a conspiracy. Yeah, that's what people will call it. Sorry, I was just looking up to see exactly what um um
Well, Gail was just making it
Gail
like
is
clear
saying.
that
Yeah.
it's more of things were coming out both ends.
Yeah.
Uh, so something's going on inside of her gastro and intestinal tract, and it just so happens that the drug that's Ozempic, Wegovy, all these weight loss drugs that she's endorsing, one of the side effects is gastrointestinal problems.
Right. Yep.
And yeah, so people, most people just go, oh, okay, well, that doesn't mean it's that's, I mean, they just don't even want to acknowledge it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm actually surprised at the amount of people. Like, if you've written like at least on X and some of the where I've seen this Gail, Oprah hospitalized. This is the headline: Oprah hospitalized after stuff was coming out of both ends. Gail King overshares. Um, but the amount of people, I was really surprised at the amount of people who were saying like Ozempic or like these weight loss drugs. Like, to me, that's a good thing. You gonna
Yeah, I mean,
call it
come
a
on. I mean,
conspiracy or
I
not, but
mean,
I think finally people are kind of hearing the thing about Ozempic, or
I mean,
or these
my
drugs.
mind went right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at. So you can say what you mean. Like, when do these people realize that people are not stupid?
Yeah, in this article, it also actually it does say in December, Winfrey told People magazine that she had been using an unspecified weight loss drug in tandem with lifestyle changes to maintain a healthy weight, a journey she has long been vocal about in the media. Um, the fact that there is a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in my lifetime feels like relief, like redemption, like a gift, she said. I now use it as I feel I need it as a tool to manage, not yo-yoing.
I mean, I don't want to be rude, but Oprah is like so ignorant. Um, and I'm not calling her dumb because we know she's not dumb, but she's definitely unaware, like completely unaware. And if she's not, as I've mentioned in the past, she's downright evil.
Yeah, I think she's right evil, to be honest.
Okay.
Let's
There
see
you
that.
go. Well, we hope you do well, Oprah. We hope you feel better. I mean, I wouldn't wish any negative on anyone's health. But it was something that I thought would be great to bring up before we dive in to this plant-based stuff.
Hmm.
Now, did you get a chance to read the articles?
I did. I only saw the one. I only saw one article that you sent that I read.
Okay. Well, they're all out there and they're talking about the study that was done, which was like what they call a meta-analysis. And in short, what they're saying is that ultra processed foods, if people are eating a lot of it, which we know they are, and I just came back from, a trip, and at one point in the trip, I got to see my family, or many people in my family, and I watched them order and get food and bring it into the house, and it was primarily processed food,
Hmm.
ultra processed food, and what people don't realize is that it may not be meat, it may not be tied into animals, and you're thinking you're healthier, but you're consuming a lot of multiple ingredient foods, barcode, packaged, processed food that is usually made with seed oils or vegetable oils
Hmm.
that we know contribute toward chronic inflammation, which also is tied into various health conditions.
Right.
Like, did you pick that up?
Oh yeah, and that's like that we've been talking about that, right? About the highly processed foods, not just this, vegetarian or whatever. I mean, uh, vegan kind of meats, if you want to call it that. Um, but the overall, your overall health when it comes to eating these processed foods, highly processed foods, um, and the oils. I mean, that Beyond Burger, I was saying to you, like, if you just read the ingredients, it's like, would you ever mix that together in your kitchen and put that in your mouth and call it healthy? I don't. It's water, pea protein, expeller pressed canola oil, refined coconut oil, rice protein, natural flavors, methyl cellulose, potato starch, apple extract. I mean, there's your fruit, I guess, and your veggies. I mean, the last ingredient is carrot, so I mean, it's hardly in there.
Wow.
I mean,
Well, you know what's interesting about, because I would eat a Beyond Burger every once in a while, and I
hmm.
would eat an Impossible Burger every once in a while. Um, I don't opt for them today, um, because I mean, even though I want it to be a good thing, it just isn't. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, you ever have that moment where it's like you go, man, I want this to be good, but at the end of the day, you got to be honest and go, I just can't push this on people. Or
yeah,
I don't want to influence people to eat these things. They would be so much better off to have just a regular real burger.
right. I mean, it's mostly canola oil. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Well, I mean, as the country is really pushing, and not all of us, but there's people in the place of policies that are pushing meatless products because they can manufacture it in the lab.
Right.
So there's profits there. So if you follow the money, then you quickly see that they're wanting to demonize real meat,
Yep.
real food that you can grow in your backyard and get people to start thinking plant-based. Like so here's a question for anyone who's catching us live or even the replay. So here's my question to you, Lisa, because I would hear people a few years ago go, "Oh yeah, I'm going plant-based," and I would go, "Well, what does that mean?" And they go, "Like what do you mean? What does it mean?" Well, you say you're plant-based, but what does that mean? What is that?
Yeah. It's funny. That's like the question that I have. Like, I'm like, this is what we should discuss. What is, this is the question I wrote down. What is plant-based nutrition? Like, what is it? Because to me, it's not a Beyond or Impossible Burger. That to me is just targeting, trying to get people who like meat, eat meat, to want to be considered plant-based. You know what I mean? I don't know how if I'm explaining that right, but if you're plant-based, when I think of plant-based, I think of plants. I think of your fruits, your veggies, your legumes, that to me is plant-based, not mixing a bunch of oils and natural flavors and some extracts and calling that plant.
Okay, this is great. Because this is the conversation that I have quite often with many, many, many people. So whenever I bring it up, Lisa, and I love how you think because your mind went right there, like, okay, well, what the hell is plant based? Because I was a vegan for 10 years of my life. I was a vegetarian, a pesco oval vegetarian for a big part of my life, like well over 30 years. And then about 5 years ago, I started eating chicken.
Hmm.
Um, and then about a little over a year ago, I started eating anything else. Um, so think about it. I mean, I went from 1989. I had ribs in 1989, and I didn't have ribs again until 2024.
Wow.
So I went a long time,
You did.
and I never talk about it because that's not my job is to meet people where they are, as you know,
Right.
and to coach people, not to put on people or influence people to eat the way I eat.
Right.
So being a guy who understands what it's like to be a vegan, when I heard people say, "Oh yeah, it's plant-based," I go, "So what is that? Is that vegan? Is that uh lacto-ovo pescatarian? Do you eat fish? Do you eat like what is that?" And it's funny because there's not a clear breakdown of it because people tend to make it their own.
Hmm.
Because some people they're being a vegan, that's plant-based because they're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables that come from what they are aware of plants. But if you look at the hardcore definition of it, it's pretty neutral. If you're eating, let's say, broccoli and you have a potato and maybe even chicken or fish, that would be considered plant-based.
A chicken or fish is considered plant-based?
Yeah, you could actually have chicken or fish and occasionally meat as long as on your plate you have quickly, easily identifiable foods that come from a plant. Broccoli, beans, rice, couscous, asparagus, tomatoes. So if there's plants on your plate, at that point, you're plant-based.
Okay. Which is not then vegan.
No, it's not. And that's why it's funny when I hear people, I mean, it's interesting, and I'm not laughing at anyone, but when I hear people like in this casual conversation, "Oh yeah, I'm plant-based." Oh, so what does that mean exactly? Right? Because then they go, like, what do you mean? I go, well, you're plant-based. It's not like we could say fat burning meal, and then you could describe a fat burning meal.
Yeah.
They go plant-based and they don't really even know what the hell they're saying. Most people are like, well, I eat mostly vegetables, beans. I don't really eat a lot of, meat or, occasionally some fish. Okay, so that's plant based. So how do you teach someone to eat a plant based meal?
Mm.
Then they
Well,
go, and then you have that whole thing where we are where we are, where people go, I'm plant based, and I saw the same thing with vegans. When I was a vegan, I could go buy red vines and eat them all day. Red 40, red 3, all this other like highly processed, horrible ingredients in it, but it wasn't based on an animal. So licorice, I could eat. That was plant based. Impossible Burger, I could eat. Plant based. So people think plant based means no animals, which they
yeah,
could just
I'm
say
just looking up that definition.
I'm a vegan. Right. So now we're at this place where you can see the war taking place, right? Ultra processed foods, over 50% of what people consume in America and most other countries is ultra processed. So I wanted to talk about what that is so people understand it, right?
Hmm.
Like if I look at Beyond Burger, that is ultra processed,
Right.
right? They made it in the lab, and a lot of people have gone that way, and they make some great sausages, great burgers. I think it's nice. I'm not a fan of the oil they're using, but that is plant based.
Hmm.
Um, they got all kind of different stuff. I mean, you can do beef crumbles and make spaghetti and meatballs. I mean, all the things that people say they want to eat when they eat meat. Now they can feel good, like, oh yeah, I don't eat meat anymore. Because a lot of people think eating meat is a bad thing.
Yeah.
When you go to fast food, that food is processed. Donuts, they're not new, they're processed. And so here's a basic chart. And I want to come back to this because I want us to create our own chart, Lisa.
Hmm.
So if you look at this chart that I have up, this is a process chart. Okay, so you can see you have unprocessed foods, and then, and I apologize, I should know the name of the person who created this because it's nice. They have 4 categories. Ours will have 5.
Hmm.
But you have processed ingredients, then you have processed, and then you have ultra processed. I would only add one thing and go like unprocessed, and then it would be minimally processed.
Yeah, like your smoothie type of things, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know how you go to a grocery store and they have apples that are sliced apples you can buy in a bag?
Hmm.
Well, the apple is unprocessed, but once you chop it and then you put it in a bag and maybe you sprinkle some lemon on it or vinegar to keep it from turning brown,
Right.
it's still in its natural state, but it has been disrupted a little bit. So I would say that's minimally processed.
Right. Same thing like chop meat and things like that. That's
Yeah.
right.
And then I think you start to see, like, as you get to ultra processed, you get further away from nature, which you cannot find it anywhere in nature. And it may even be man made, right?
Hmm.
Um, that would be ultra processed.
Yeah, this is a good visual. I like it.
Yeah. So I would just add just one thing to it
Yeah,
to help people. And then,
understand. Yeah.
and to me, plant-based would be like when you're eating primarily unprocessed to minimally processed.
Right.
If you're doing ultra processed, I wouldn't call that plant-based.
So plant-based, like, I mean, if you plant-based basically, because even like, let me get back to this definition, means Of food or a diet, consisting largely or solely of vegetables, green, pulses, or other foods derived from plants rather than animal products. So it's largely, right? Largely or solely for some people who consider, plant-based, more like a vegan. But plant-based, like, I mean, it would be like if the majority of your plate is veggies, let's say, fruits or veggies, and then, maybe a small portion of meat or eggs or fish or something like that. But so that would be like more of the visual of a plant-based, really? Like
Yeah,
the
I mean,
majority of your food, the majority, like an 80-20 rule. 80% of your plate is, fruits and veggies and legumes, and, only 20% is animal product, maybe.
okay, I mean that would be a good way of looking at it. Um, and again, I mean, I've read a good amount of books. I've listened to a good amount of people who want to be the leaders when it comes to plant based.
Hmm.
And some of them would agree with what you just said, and some of them would say, no, there can't be any animals,
Yeah.
which basically is being a vegan. So why did we come up with another name
Same.
if we could have just called them vegans?
Because we like labels.
We like labels, and it
And then
gives
we like to argue about labels.
yes, and you create that whole new fad, right? That
Yeah.
whole new thing of like, oh yeah, I'm plant based, and you don't even know what the hell that means. Like, well, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, we live in this world where it's okay to not know,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So let me play this little video,
Okay.
and then we'll dive into it. And then you guys, we're gonna tell you, like, you know, what we believe you want to know in order to live your best and healthiest life as it pertains to plant-based, because with a lot of the ultra processed foods that are out there, again, we're consuming a lot of ingredients that cause chronic inflammation. That's part of your reason why you're insulin resistant and can't lose weight. Part of the reason why you have autoimmune conditions is because you're eating certain ingredients, and we're gonna talk about it. But let's watch this short video. It's short, and it's kind of like summarizes kind of this study that has demonstrated that people who are eating ultra processed, like plant-based, significantly now have increased risk for stroke and heart attack and chronic inflammation. That's crazy. So we'll watch the video, then we'll comment on it, and we like your thoughts, and then we'll go from there. Is that good, Lisa?
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go.
Now we can turn plants into burgers and hot dogs.
Yes, they're plant-based foods, but they're also ultra-processed. Question is, are they still just as good for you? A new study says, no, they're not.
This is kind of one of our first signals suggesting that they aren't that good for us.
Brazilian researchers looked at the implications of food ultra-processing on heart health from plant origin foods. Based on over 100,000 people surveyed in the UK, they found increasing your intake of plant-based foods by 10%, including fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and beans, can lower your risk of having a heart attack or stroke. But eating plant-based ultra-processed foods, things like buns, margarine, bread, and cookies, appear to do the opposite, increasing your risk.
The real question...
You know what? Let me just pause just for a second there. Plus, we got to do that sometimes so they won't flag us. Guys, everyone who's listening, when you're eating these ultra-processed foods, I know the package says plant-based, and I know it makes you feel pretty good, but you got to take it to the next level and be able to look at the ingredients list so you can see what that food is made up of. So we'll talk about that. I just wanted to take that little moment and share that, and then let's finish hearing what they have to say.
that somebody like me has is why is that? And we don't know that answer yet.
Inside this lab at the University of Toronto, they're trying to figure out how various nutrients affect our body. What we do know is Most ultra-processed foods are industrially formulated with additives and preservatives, promoting convenience and shelf life, and their marketing is evolving.
The strategy is often to health wash the products and make them appear healthier than they actually are.
Studies have shown half our daily calories come from ultra-processed foods, especially kids. This dietitian's advice: try to buy whole, unpackaged foods.
Yes, we can have convenience foods, but we need to look at the labels to see which are ultra processed and which are just processed or cooked from scratch.
She said it all right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's what I saw with that clip. I saw Kim Kardashian, celebrities making money, promoting it. Like, I'll never forget, you know, with Michael Jackson, when he was alive, he did a commercial for Pepsi. And he promoted the hell out of Pepsi, but he had never even drank Pepsi a day in his life.
Mm.
And that's why it's like, it's good to bring that up, because so many people will be influenced by influencers to eat what they think they're eating, not knowing that what you're eating may be the culprit for why you have these health issues.
Absolutely.
That was the first thing. And then before we started talking, you asked me the question, have I ever looked at the ingredients of like a Beyond or an Impossible burger?
Mm-hmm.
And I say yes, and then you started reading it off. I mean, what's your thoughts with
Because I'm just like, see, I look at everything. I look at all of the ingredients, and sometimes too, like even with my son, you know, there's ingredients that I prefer him not to have, but at the same time, I can't, um, I allow it, you know, occasionally, especially like the highly processed stuff. But I mean, I'm always looking at labels, and I know that was probably a stupid question to ask you because I know you read the labels too. But it's just like, because I think it's when you actually, as opposed to like what you said, like there's some influencer who's trying to influence you to, you know, eat something, right? Or buy some product, some, let's say Beyond Burger, right? And you see the pictures of them eating the Beyond Burger, and um but like, look at those ingredients. Like, would you ever like, it's like, okay, like a veggie burger to me would be like, okay, we could be processed, but like a veggie burger to me would be something more of like beans, to make that consistency, and then chopping up some veggies and putting it all together, and putting it on a bun. Right? Like something like that. I mean, it's definitely, it's processed, but it's not. I mean, water. The first three ingredients were water, pea protein, and canola oil, and then the next ingredients was coconut oil. So it's like, to me, that's just like you are just eating these oils that we know are harmful, and I think to just, and then, then you're adding the bread to it too, which, it's another issue. And what are you eating on it? What, like, where's the veggies? Where's the plants? That's my question.
Yeah, if it's plant-based, where's the plants?
Right. There's no plants in that. There's carrots at the end of it. It's the last ingredient. It's carrots, probably for some color.
And they don't tell you it's what do you call that when it's they tell you one thing up front and then they trick you on the back end. I mean, I know hoodwinked and bamboozled, but it's like you go in thinking one thing based on the knowledge that you have, and next thing you know, you're just eating all of these ingredients that have a negative long-term impact. So, I mean, that brings us to this question, right? So going back, when I was a kid, a lot of the ingredients that are in foods today were not in the foods at the level that they are today.
Mm.
So when I look at my daughters, you look at your son, if they are eating, the chips and the cookies and all this processed stuff, they're getting way more of the things that will cause chronic health conditions than we were exposed to.
Right.
And the sad part is that many of us may not live long enough to see the negative impact of the foods these kids are eating today, if they're eating them, because we'll be gone.
Yeah.
And they will have to battle, and they will have a life challenged with many chronic illnesses.
Right.
So,
And it never gets related to that too. Like I kind of feel like, sorry, am I interrupting you?
oh no, not at all.
I feel like people go through certain health issues, like let's say high blood pressure, let's say diabetes, let's say, these health issues, but they're not relating it to what they're putting in their body. They're not relating it to the food, or what they're eating, how they're eating it, how they're combining it. You know, they just think, I mean, this is just me personally. If I feel like people think that just happens right with age, like, like the story told is like, as we age, we start developing these health problems. But what if we were aware of, like Pam said, this fake food that we're putting into our body, that they have great marketing and selling us and our kids on these foods that they're not real food. It's processed garbage, and we're not putting, I don't think a lot of people, like, to their health issues that they're experiencing, are connecting that part of it.
No, they're not. And that's one of the reasons why I love the omega test that we do with people now.
Hmm.
Because I don't know if you saw, but Marilyn, who's one of our coaches, her dad is 101 years old. Now, he doesn't go buy cookies, and he's not eating all this processed stuff that we're eating, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
when one of my buddies came to visit me from Brazil, and I really like licorice. Like, so if you spend a lot of quality time with me, my go-to, if I was gonna have candy, it's gonna be licorice, right? Like, I'm not gonna buy M&Ms. I'm gonna buy licorice. Okay. I like licorice.
You say that's so funny, licorice.
Yeah, well, because I'm salivating when I say it. Because I do like licorice, right? So I get red vines, and that'll be like, I mean, that's pretty hardcore. It's not the healthiest thing in the world. Or I'll get like the Australian brand. But anyway, I like licorice. But I'm not eating all the other things, right? So when I was around my family watching the younger people, everything they ate was processed,
Hmm.
like ultra processed, everything. So I want everyone to hear me on this. And I'm going to use the analogy of a cigarette. And most people don't know this about cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes every day, okay, multiple cigarettes every day, the chances of you getting lung cancer is probably around 7%. That's not much. So there's a lot of people that will smoke cigarettes their whole life and never get lung cancer. Now, you can see their skin affected. They don't look as youthful. Their voice is kind of thrown. There's other negatives to smoking consistently for years.
Mm.
But it's the compound effect of smoking that causes the negative impact on your health. The same thing when it comes to these ingredients that are with ultra processed foods.
Right.
Eating one chip or one Oreo cookie is not going to be the damage. It's eating an Oreo cookie, snacking on some jelly beans, having a donut at work, having a friend cook food in a horrible oil, stopping at a restaurant. And every day, that compound effect of getting a little bit of those oils, they start to get inside of your cells, and it becomes a endocrine disruptor. And then it starts to create inflammation in the body. Now, not when you're 13, not when you're 18, but it shows up when you don't want it to be there. Maybe it's at 32, maybe it's at 45. And then you're wondering, well, what the hell? And then you just kind of get with everybody else, right? Oh, I got fibromyalgia. Oh, I got gout. Oh, I got Hashimoto's. Like, and all of those things are linked to what you ate for years.
Yeah.
And then it shows up.
Yeah, that's a good book, The Compound Effect. Did you ever read?
Is there a book called The
There's a
Compound
book
Effect?
called The Compound Effect. Yeah, it's a good book.
Oh, I like that book. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's what we do, those baby steps, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it talks about it just like you were saying, like there's the compound effect that affects you negatively, but you can also work things, the compact effect of, let's say with food, of starting to add, like every day, let's say you just add some more fruits and veggies to your plate, if you're not used to eating that, like start with one veggie, and you compound it and increase it and you have the benefit. It's a great book.
Oh, I love how you spent that. The spin was positive instead of the negatives, right?
Right.
So it's knowing what to avoid and then slowly bringing in all those things that are going to help you in the long term.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'll share something with you that I hope I can connect the dots for everybody. But this came up earlier. One of my partners called me and he asked me a question about the insulin response, right? Because we know that insulin is driving migraines. We know that insulin elevated throughout the day is a main driver for blood pressure and a whole bunch of other chronic metabolic conditions, right? Not just sugar. And so the more insulin that gets secreted or is causing insulin to be floating in your blood, that's where a big part of the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend and partner called me and he had a question about it. And wrapped up inside of the question, and here's my answer. I said to him, if you take whole milk, maybe it's been pasteurized at the most, but you take whole milk, and when they compare the insulin response of whole milk to low fat milk, right? So let's say whole milk is minimally processed or it's not processed at all, right? Because you can just get it right from the cow and drink it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a little bit of a risk there, but you could do that. But when they take out the fat and they process it even more, you then have low fat milk, right? And here's the one I want you to remember as a coach. When they look at the insulin response of whole milk compared to low fat milk, which is more processed, it's a 300% difference.
Wow.
So you secrete 300% more insulin because you're going for low fat, because it's further from nature than going with something that's full fat. You have less insulin response.
Yeah. Interesting. And talking about insulin, I don't know, did you see the study that we should have another conversation about this, but going back to Ozempic, did you hear what they're saying now about Ozempic and fertility? Did you see any of that?
I saw a little bit of it. It's saying that more people are getting pregnant when they're on Ozempic than not being on Ozempic. Was that
Right.
the one?
Yeah, that's the one. I think like that would be an interesting conversation too, right? So like what does insulin resistance have to do with fertility? Right? I mean, that's what comes to mind for me. Like,
I mean, I actually have a whole bunch of thoughts about that, because that's why they put a lot of women who have insulin resistance of the ovaries, they put them on metformin.
metformin. Mm-hmm.
And that increases the likelihood of them getting pregnant.
Right.
Which then goes all the way back, everybody, to why we encourage people to own their own glucose monitor.
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, if you're keeping a close eye on your fasting glucose at home, which you can do, you can use that information to help you become a better runner, whether it's running 5Ks, a marathon, dropping body fat. I mean, knowing where your fasting glucose is critical for so many reasons, to include helping you optimize fat loss and put you in a position if you're looking to get pregnant, but you're having a hard time getting pregnant, you don't got to get on metformin. Let's look at your glucose and then teach you how to eat so that you can keep your glucose levels low.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
done.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking when I saw that, and I was like, "Oh, I got to talk to Robert. We got to talk about that because that was interesting."
Okay. Now, if you notice, so Pam asked a question. Does the oil that I recommend, the omega-3 oil that we endorse? And by the way, did you get your oil?
I did get it, and I started it. So I haven't done the test because I only have the one test, and I want to use that test for my son. I want to check his levels before I check mine. But so I did start
Okay.
the
I
oil.
I will send you another test.
Okay.
Please test yours ASAP
Okay, I'll test mine.
because the power is going to be in. I'm telling you, you got to trust me on this because you can't go back and redo this.
Yeah. Okay, I will. I'll use that for me, but I got to get another test done because I do want to check my son's. But I can say this about the oil. So it doesn't have a taste to it. I have no fishy taste. Like I was kind of worried, I'm not gonna lie, when I was ready to I just mixed it with a little water and down the hatch. Um and I thought there was gonna be a taste to it and I was gonna have that fishy kind of after you know what I mean? That after
Oh
kind of
yeah, and even though I
like
say it, even though I shared that with you,
I
it's
know, but you have to experience it yourself.
yes, people need to experience it themselves.
No, I so far, I'll do the test tomorrow morning. It does or I could do it tonight, right? I'm thinking
Yeah, just do
yeah,
it because
I
it's
could
a
just do
cell
it.
membrane. Just get it in the mail,
All right.
and then I will send you a test for your son.
Okay.
Because
Thank you.
I want you to see. So when I mentioned Marilyn's dad, right, and we're thinking ultra processed foods, you guys in the ultra processed foods, there's a ton of seed and vegetable oils. If you go buy mayonnaise, which is ultra processed, you're going to see soybean oil in most mayonnaise, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil. All of these oils, rice bran oil, are extremely high in linoleic acid, omega 6, that is linked to causing chronic inflammation.
Mhm.
And it can take 608 days to get it out of your fat tissues. 608
Wow.
days, studies reveal. So when I get clients and they've been eating a lot of this stuff that we know isn't helping them, and they're like, well, I'm having a hard time losing weight. I go, yeah. A lot of that has to do with how you have insulin resistance.
Mhm.
And I know that it takes 600 plus days of you avoiding this crap to get it out of your system, which means we got to drop some body fat. So we're up against a lot, right? And then you have your liver that's probably fatty. And when the liver is fatty, it messes up everything, Lisa.
Mhm.
It messes up everything. Like if you have a fatty liver, which most people who are hearing us talk have a fatty liver, even those of you who are 130 pounds, 120 pounds, feeling like you're all that and you look good in the clothes and in the mirror, don't get fooled. Many of you are fooled. You think you're all that and you ain't there. You're not there because you're out of balance when it comes to these oils, and you're out of balance when it comes to insulin resistance. And as Lisa experienced in her own life,
Mhm.
which I mean, you're 115 pounds at the time, you were pre-diabetic.
I was 108 pounds and I was pre-diabetic.
108 pounds and pre-diabetic.
Mhm. And I was working out and I was, doing all the things I thought correctly, and I was
Y-
pre-diabetic. And then, like, like what you said too, I hadn't tested my, I hadn't been to the doctor probably since before COVID. Um, and I hadn't tested my fasting glucose, and it really is such a great tool because I in January I knew that I'm like my glucose, my insulin must be off. Like, like you begin to be able to recognize it, even like you said, like having migraines or um, feeling sluggish and like different, you know, and I was just like, let me test. I'm like having all these people I work with test their fasting glucose, but I wasn't doing it myself, and I'm like, let me test it. And I think I was 105. And I'm like, oh, there you go. Right. Like I didn't need to go to the doctor. And then I knew exactly what I needed to do to bring that number below 100, you know?
mhm.
And so it's like that easy, like, and then you are in control, your that puts you in control of your health, and you have to go to the doctor and hear her say, well, you're pre-diabetic again, and maybe this time it's let's do metformin for you, like, I know what to do. I That number doesn't scare me anymore. Like um when I was first told I was pre-diabetic, I mean, I think I was crying over that. Like, what? Like, it really hit me, and I was like, well, I didn't even know what to do. And that's when I found you. And I yeah, I didn't even know what to do because I thought I was doing everything right. And now that number, I know exactly what I'm doing that has caused that number to creep up. And I know exactly what to do to bring it back down. So thank you, Robert, for teaching me that.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for sharing that because that resonates with a lot of people. It's our ultimate goal is to put people in a position where they know what to do. Unfortunately, we are living in a world where people don't know what to do. They don't know how to navigate. So when we talk about educating someone and just being there for them and coaching them, there is nothing more powerful, okay, than having a coach.
Mhm.
Guys, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, and I've seen it for years. They'll tell me, "No, Robert, I got it. I'm good." And
Yeah.
then 4 years goes by. I was just talking to a client the other day. I mean, I got her down. She was no longer diabetic. She had been doing really good. She was living her best and healthiest life. We dropped about 40 pounds, and she finally got it in herself to call me. We get on the phone yesterday, and she sent me her numbers. This is where I'm at. And I pulled up her file, and, I mean, my heart goes out to her and everyone who experienced this. She gained all her weight back,
Mm,
all of her weight.
yeah. I
Now,
mean, coaching is like, you know what it is too. It's like, and I had a client, Robert, that did the same thing, and she actually, she said it to me. She's like, you know what? I thought I could do it on my own, right? I thought I knew what to do. And I think it's that accountability too, right? It's like when I go to the gym like by myself, um like I'll get through it. But it's like when you have a trainer, when that's kind of like what I need to do right now. I need to hire, my personal trainer back again, right? Because it it's that accountability, and it's like every week it's like, okay, I know I'm gonna see him, and I know I gotta, like, I can't be in the same place I was last week, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, same thing, like in all aspects of life. It's so much it's so much easier when you have a coach in different areas of life who are there to help you through that, right? Like, even I was sharing with you, I did the neurological reorganization with my son, and I kind of was trained in that therapy portion, right, to be his physical therapist, so to speak. Um, but I had that accountability, right? So like for 2 years, we went through this program. Not that I needed him, there to do all of this, but it kept us accountable. And my son reached and attained all of those goals. I don't know that that would happen if it was just left to me and I didn't have him there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I have coaches. So whenever I see people that don't understand the power of that, like I have many clients. Like when I made available a discounted program where I could coach people, made it reasonable, and I could take so many people, and I do it because it actually feels good to me, right?
Hmm.
But all of those clients that I've been coaching for, it's been 3 years now. I mean, I took on a good amount of them, and the ones that I'm still coaching, they have not gained their weight back.
Hmm. Yeah.
But when I reach out and talk to those other people that I haven't coached, I mean, and they know how to lose weight,
Yeah.
but they ain't where they were. You see what I mean? Like, so when it's that consistent, then I know personally the importance of having a coach. I know it
Yeah.
personally for me. I know it personally for people. I just know that it's got to be something that people can afford. If you can
Yeah.
get it to where they can afford it,
Hmm.
then now you got a tool.
Yeah.
If they can't afford it, then I get it, because people got to pay the, you got a light bill and the,
Yeah. Especially these days.
yeah,
It's
things are, everything's
ridiculous.
expensive. I'm like,
I mean, man.
but yeah, but it's and then when money is tight, guess what? All the foods that have the seed oils, the things that's going to cause problems, that
Hmm.
are at a better price, that's what you end up buying.
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Because I go buy grass-fed butter, which I actually like grass-fed. I like the taste. I
Hmm.
like everything about it. Um, and in my grocery store that I go to most of the time, they have grass-fed butter. And let's say if it's like I could pay $2 and get regular butter, and for the same amount, it's like $5 or $6 grass-fed.
Yeah. I know. I like the grass fed too.
But most people, unless they really know the value of grass-fed butter,
Well,
they're gonna go. They're gonna go for the savings. They're gonna save money.
there's also, like the A2, if you can find the A2 grass-fed butter, same thing with the A2 milk.
And what
That
is A2? So that's new to me. What is A2 grass-fed
A2,
butter?
so I learned this from my son's pediatrician. So when we were like, going to reintroduce dairy to him, he said he taught me about A2 dairy. So if you look it up, so like the A2 cows, um it's basically less inflammatory. It's something about that breed of cows, and like so the dairy product, that A2, I gotta do a little bit more research to kind of help you out. But basically it's less inflammatory than the other cows.
Okay.
Um
I mean,
is
I can
how
get that.
I
But I can take a wild guess at that, because I know, like if you said, "Hey, Robert, if you had to lose 20 pounds for a photo shoot or something, what are some of the things you would do?" Which, believe it or not, I rarely get my clients ask me that question, that's a question I would ask me if I was them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, because I would be like, okay, well, what would you do? Right?
Yeah.
And that would be the roadmap for me to do what I'm going to do. But I wouldn't eat much chicken. I wouldn't eat turkey probably at all. If I had any pork or any chicken, it would be pasteurized, because I know that they
Pasture
are
raised.
or pasture raised. I know that pasture raised pork, as well as chicken, turkey, and everything else, is going to be higher in omega 3. it's going to be lower in omega-6. I don't want omega-6, right? Because that's causes inflammation. I want everything as close to nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would be eating.
Right.
Yeah, without
I mean,
hesitation.
and that's the same, like that's the same thing. I even find too, like, like even with my son, like where, like with kids, it's like, because it's like once you learn something, right? So like what we were talking about, like the more processed, right? And I remember having the conversation, or me, maybe like in one of our coach training, and we were talking about, that level of food processing, right? And having this steak as opposed to the burger, having the whole chicken as opposed to the chicken nugget, like that is always in my head. And I feel like, I'm going to just cook the whole chicken. I'll roast the chicken and we'll have the chicken, as opposed to, just heating up some chicken nuggets, or it's like, if my son wants, a burger, I'll be like, how about a steak? And he loves steak, so it's like, because that's less processed, right?
Right.
And so it's healthier for him. And yeah, that was a huge wake up, for me when you mentioned that, and I always think about that.
Well, and I hope those of you who are catching us have this conversation get what Lisa just said, because, like, man, I mean, I don't want to like say things that make people go, oh, I can't do it. But the highly processed chicken that you can get at most of these restaurants, right? Fast food, even, casual dining. When it's breaded or it's like a nugget, it's going to be really high in omega-6, which is what causes inflammation and the problems. And a lot of it won't even be real. And they've done many tests with this where they'll take different parts of different animals, or even like shave wood, and use it as a filler with these chicken tenders type stuff. And you don't know.
No, you're just eating it.
I mean, when I look at the McDonald's pickle, and it says there's 10 ingredients in the pickle.
Yeah, what?
Right?
That right there tells you. If a
I
pickle
mean-
has 10 ingredients, you don't want to eat it.
Okay. And the government, we gotta stop trusting our government, you guys. And it's not being mean to say that. They are overwhelmed. They don't have enough people. And they're working off a lot of misinformation that never has been changed. I mean, they're running off. I mean, when we look at calories, that goes back to William Atwater. Goes back to the late 1800s to early 1900s. And we know that things that aren't accurate, but it still remains as part of our due process around food.
Yeah.
We're it's like, okay, and here's an interesting one. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because I've been looking at cholesterol, and I've been wanting to do this thing on cholesterol for about 2 years. And here's my hypothesis. Okay, you guys tell me if I sound really crazy. Just be very real, which you always are. Okay, we were told that high cholesterol initially would be over 200.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, would be over 240. Then they changed it to be over 200. Mm-hmm. Then the focus was on, we got to lower your LDL. That's the bad cholesterol, right? That became the bad guy. And if you consume seed oils, we know that in place of regular butter, right, regular fat, beef tallow, suet, then LDLs go down. And since we've all come to the conclusion that having high LDLs is bad, anything that brings LDLs down is worth its weight in gold. Mm-hmm. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody believes that. So everything is based on, how does it impact my LDLs? And if it lowers it like a statin, then that's a good thing. Now, the flip side of all that is that people with higher LDLs and higher cholesterol live longer and are less likely to have stroke and heart attack. And we know this. But yet the majority of people are still thinking, I got to get my LDLs down. Everything is about the cholesterol, and I got to change the way I eat, and I got to do things differently to get. But as you lower your LDL, we know that you increase your risk of dying earlier.
Right.
So here it is. Like, we have this whole thing based on statins going back to 1987. And that everything is about this demon called cholesterol. Whereas our body naturally handles cholesterol, right? Like I
Right. You
know,
go lower or raise it, right?
yeah, like our liver, if we don't eat much cholesterol, it will produce more cholesterol. If we eat a lot of cholesterol, it will produce less cholesterol. So the liver knows how much cholesterol we need, but then we have a statin that goes in and manipulates the liver and blocks it from creating cholesterol, which we know every cell membrane in your entire body needs cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're blocking your body from producing cholesterol for every cell membrane in our body. And we wonder why we have all these new diseases and chronic challenges.
That's a good topic, Robert.
It's a crazy one. Because
Yeah, but like that's like information. I mean, because that's, I mean, it's like we go to the doctor, they do the blood work, and the doctor's like, you know, your cholesterol is high, your triglycerides are high, like all of this is high, and well, one, it's like, okay, you have to change your diet, but most people don't even know what that means or how to do it, or here's this medication, but that's not even, it's based now on, there's new information, but that part of it hasn't changed.
no,
Right?
and they're not going to change that.
Yeah. Well, because
that
that
messes
would be
up.
a lot of money. It's like what you said before, follow the money. Why, right?
Yep. And you got all those people looking at their pensions and they're like, you know what? Hey, next generation, they can figure it out.
Yeah. It's so sad.
It's really sad. And then that takes us back, like Pam asked the question, does the omega-3 oil that we mentioned that vegans are missing assist with improving skin, nails, and hair? Okay. Here's what we know to be true. If you're a vegan, and remember, I'm all about, I love vegans. Hey, go for it. Every time they've done tests, and we're talking millions of tests, omega-3 index tests, vegans are always low. They're always insufficient because they don't eat fish.
Mm-hmm.
They don't eat grass-fed beef. They don't eat pasteurized eggs. They don't eat anything that naturally you would be getting with omega-3. But somewhere in their mind, they want to be vegan because they think that's being healthier to avoid meat.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, if that's why they're vegan, they got misinformation. So omega-3, when you are sufficient, yes, it helps with skin. Yes, it helps with nails. Yes, it helps with menstrual cycle. Yes, it helps with night hot flashes. Yes, it helps with all kinds of things. It helps preserve skeletal muscle. It helps reduce body fat. It helps so many things, and it's one of the most studied molecules in medical history. And we know that when you're deficient in omega-3, that you have increased risk of heart attack, increased risk of all kinds of problems, to include dementia and Alzheimer that is like growing rapidly. And if there's a test that a person can take, and this is why I want you to do the test, is because then there's no guessing. There's no like in 4 months, Lisa, you going, well, I bet I was probably, or no, let's not probably anything.
Yeah.
Let's know. And we'll know the same for your son. But then when you meet clients, you'll be able to say, hey, look, I eat fairly healthy, blah, blah, blah. Like Marilyn's dad. This guy eats fish almost every day. He's 101 years old. Relatively healthy. I mean, Marilyn, she shows some pictures of him. He seems like a great guy. And her mom is like late 90s, and they live with them. He gets up almost every day. He goes in the backyard. They got a lake, and he fishes for catfish. And he cooks it. He catches it, cleans it, cooks it. 101 years old. And catfish, if you look it up, very high in omega-3. So I was so excited for her to get his numbers done, because I was willing to bet to say he's going to be in balance, right? So 3 to 1 or lower would be ideal, right? He was 3.1 to 1.
Wow.
And his percentage was 8%, which you want to be 8 to 12% of omega-3 in your cell membranes. So he's there. Everything is in the yellow. And if he just ate a little bit more fish, maybe one more day, or supplements with the teaspoon a day, he's in the green across the board.
Wow. And he's 101 years old.
101. And so if you reverse engineer that, you go, okay, so what are some things unique about him at 101 that helped him with his longevity? Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Guy eats fish almost every day. Same as the people in Okinawa that live to be more people there in their hundreds. My friend Bernardo Apollo, who died at 114, he ate fish every day. And I know him personally. He ate a lot of polyphenols in the form of blueberries and stuff like that. At 114, he had a little bit of a cough. They said he closed his eyes and he died. Last time I saw him, he was 113. And
Yeah,
then
and that was that interview that you did with him, right?
yes.
Wow.
And then, I don't know if you saw, but I did a post where I said, all right, where are the most obese people in the world? And most people think it's in America. And when it comes to women, we're ranked number 36 as the most obese country. When it comes to men, I think we're around 18. So you go, okay, so there's 35 other countries that are more obese than America. So then my thought was like, well, where are the leanest people? Where's the least amount of obesity? And what came up was Vietnam, Ethiopia, which has really low levels of type 2 diabetes, China, South Korea, Japan.
They all eat a lot of fish.
They eat a lot of fish. Even Ethiopia, a lot of fish. So, and then when they've done tests on their omega levels, they're all 8 to 12%. Same as Marilyn's dad. So when you start seeing it like that, you go, okay, wait a minute. It's so obvious that you feel stupid when you can see how obvious it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there was one supplement that I'm sold on that I think everybody in the world will benefit from, it's the omega-3s, without question.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I mean, so far, I'm going to do the test when we get off this call and I'll send it. But so far I've liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they've done. And when you learn, because you're going to eat it up when you meet the main scientists who back in the 80s was on this journey that took him to the place where he introduced the polyphenols, right? So when they looked at the fish, he realized as a biologist, he goes, when we purify the oil from the fish, we're stripping it of a lot of things to include the natural occurring polyphenols. And so they realized that it was the polyphenols that naturally occur in the fatty fish that makes it possible for it to get to the cell membrane, get into the tissues, and work all these amazing benefits. But when companies purify the oil from the fish, they don't put polyphenols in it. They put vitamin E in it to help it from turning rancid.
Hmm.
But it's the polyphenols that they're infusing in it that is what makes it extremely different. So it's not necessarily the oil. The oil is intact, but it's the polyphenols that is the genius in what these guys have created.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and I said, like, even with my son, I said I was, we tried, I know the benefits of that, and we tried it, and he just didn't react. He didn't have a good reaction to the I don't know, Carlson or whatever it was. It was supposedly like one of the best, fish oils or omegas that you can take, but um, you know, I'm excited about this because I understand, like, it put it in perspective. Like, okay, I can understand. Like, so maybe he reacted. It's not that I can't give this to him, but maybe he reacted because, like, I'm gonna guess too that it's all oxidated too, right? And it's more, in some probably causing more inflammation, um, without that polyphenol added back into it. I I don't know, that's just my thought on it. But I'm really excited to try this for him. I haven't started him on it yet because I haven't done the blood test on him yet, but or the finger prick.
Well, I just placed an order for 10 tests. So I will send you one of those of my 10, and then I owe Amy one because I borrowed one from her, and I owe Susie one. So then I'll have 7 more after that. But yeah, everyone, I would say get the test because then there's no guessing,
Yeah.
and that is going to be how you can combat the high amount of omega-6 people are eating.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
It's in everything. I mean, it's in everything.
everything, and we're just not getting enough. We're just not getting enough omega-3. We're not. And it's not even being talked about. And
Well,
it's
what's interesting too is I find that, like, I think most doctors are, or at least my doctors seem to be educated in omega, the importance of omegas, and have suggested supplementing. Not that I ever had blood work done to confirm that through them, right? Because they could have done that, but um just the amount of times that it had, like, the omegas have, but without that explanation, or not without not knowing that, hey, you're eating a lot of omega sixes and your omega 3 is depleted. You know what I mean? Like, that's just extra information that I didn't have until I started learning about this, and it makes total sense.
yeah, we're out of balance, man.
Yeah.
And they're not doing, and the government we can't wait on them. I mean, this is our life.
Right.
So it's like,
So you got to do it. You got to do it for yourself.
yeah. And the good news is that it's not like we're just guessing. That's what I love about the tests.
Yeah.
Because once you can see where you are, then you can see where you get to. And
Right.
you have that balance. I mean, I'm already seeing it. Some people are starting to lose weight better.
Hmm.
And
Well,
then I hear,
Susie too, with her skin, right? Her skin is glowing.
yeah, she's all about like,
She's all about the skin.
and maybe that's what it is for her.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter will not go a day without it because she remembers the menstrual cramps and she don't
Mhm.
want that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so some people will have like an obvious experience where they go, all right, I'm taking this because I don't want to go back to that, which I think is powerful. But when you can see your test, like when you start to see in about 6 weeks, I'm gonna have all these before and afters.
Hmm.
I mean, I cannot wait because once you can see, like, okay, well, you were 48 to 1, which is not good, and now you're 2.7 to 1. And the
Yeah.
only thing you changed in your life was taking the product.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then to even feel and experience, like, the different, the health benefits. Like, I'm interested too. Like, I was saying, I mean, since I've been taking this, so I mentioned earlier, right? I've been experiencing migraines. I don't know that there's different reasons, right, for that could be. But I also, so I started taking that, but I did also go to the chiropractor. I think right around the same time that it was last week that I started taking it. And I went to the chiropractor as well, and he also did my shoulders were very tight. He used like that electric stim on there, and it totally loosened them up. And I had the adjustment, and my migraine went away. But at the same time, I was also taking that, so I'm curious to see how that helps with, you know, with that migraine. And I mean, my insulin, I mean, I think there's other things going on, but I'm curious to see. I got to check my fasting glucose again. I'll do that in the morning, and then I'll send you my omega test.
All right, let's get that thing. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. This was a good conversation tonight, Robert.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always good talking to you there,
Yeah.
Lisa Marie, Hammer Girl.
It's a good conversation. I
Well,
always like conversations like this.
and I feel like I think we gave enough information that can help people. I mean, maybe we can
I
give
hope so.
them just eat close to nature. My take home is look, eat is close to nature, and I know that's not enough. People need they need something. Um, get with Lisa to be coached. Get with me. Get with one of our other coaches. But just you want the knowledge and the understanding so you can choose for yourself.
Right.
Last thing I'll share is when I was in Orlando, my mom and some of my family members were there. So I was like, hey, I'm hungry. And so we went to the grocery store, and then I saw this little pub. It was like a British pub, and it was authentic too. So I go in, and the guy who runs it, he's from the UK. So we started talking. I'm having a good conversation with him and all the other people there. And they make fish and chips, right? Because that's real popular, like in Ireland, etc., right?
Hmm.
And I said, "What are you cooking the oil in? Like, what are you frying the fish in?" He's like, "What do you mean?" Right? So it's like, and so we were having a conversation, and I said, "Well, at the end of the day, he was using vegetable oil." And I said, "Have you ever thought about maybe using tallow, beef tallow?" So we had a whole bunch of conversation. He goes, "You know what? That's what I grew up. That's what we used to use when we deep fried our fish."
Hmm.
And I have some in the back. And he made my fish and chips, which was French fries, with beef tallow.
Mm.
Just because I brought it up.
Yeah, that see, like, I mean, and if we do bring that up, like, I was just actually looking as you were saying that because one of my friends, he's a chiropractor and like more of like a homeopathic, more of a natural doctor. But he made a post the other day. Um, he said that so there are almost 1,000 restaurants in Nassau County. So that's Nassau County is on Long Island for those that don't know. Less than 20 don't use seed oils in their food prep. And then he wrote, "This stuff is making us sick." Did you know that there is an app? He posted, I was looking for the name of the app. He said the app is called Seed Oil Scout. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. And it's funny that you say that because one of my clients brought it to my attention, and I kept saying, "Oh, I need to get that app."
Yeah.
Or at least show the app to the restaurants I go to frequently so that they can go, "Well, how do I get on this app as they're being recommended?" Well, you got to quit using seed oils.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, that's something that we can do. Like, let's start doing that. Hey, I notice you're not on this app. Everybody, like get them to make the change,
Man, see that's how you do it. Yeah, that's good. That's
right?
good.
We
Yep.
start requesting it. Hey, you want more business? I mean, more people, more and more people. Like, I mean, then you post and share. Like, look how many people are wanting, you know, you just stop using these seed oils. Like, let's start that train. Let's
And
get them
that's
to
yeah,
stop using it.
I love that. All right, well, if you once you figure out the app, then maybe we can text it to me so I can play with it too.
Yeah.
And then we can do a follow-up call and talk about it. And maybe by then I can go to one of my favorite restaurants here in Ventura, California, and get them to get the owners to look at it and say, hey man, you're probably going to save money
Yeah.
if you use beef tallow, and the food's going to taste better. And as long as you're not reusing the oil, then it's a win-win.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, last words from Lisa Marie.
No, I just, thanks for the conversation tonight, Robert. Thank you for everyone joining and listening in or catching the replay. It was a great conversation.
All right. Well, let's keep it going, and let's keep making a difference. And I'll talk to you later. I am doing a coach call tomorrow for coaches.
Okay.
It's one that I want you, if you can't be there live, definitely get there, because we're going to go over Bloom's toxology on how that ties into being an amazing coach.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
Yeah, and for regular clients, because if we can get them to understand the hierarchy of learning and applying, then those people will own it. Right? It's kind of like you could take me to any restaurant anywhere in the world, and I know that I feel like you could do the same, and I can make a fat burning meal based on what I have access to.
Yeah.
And if we can get our clients to that point, right? Because you know how it is. You talk to a client after a while, they go, "Oh, so wait a minute, is I'm a fast carb or they forget, they don't get it."
Yeah.
Or we haven't got them to that level yet. And the goal is to get them to that level that they can look at almost anything, basically anything, and they can make it work. And that's where Bloom's toxology comes in.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So, all right. Well, enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks,
all right, you guys. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you, and we'll be back. That's Hammer Girl Lisa Marie. You can contact her. Her info is there, same as mine. And until the next one, right?
Oops, sorry, I had to unmute. Yep, we'll have to do this again next week, Robert.
All right. I'll
Get
talk
back
to you
on
then.
track. All right.
You got it. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.